Why is this happening to me? Why am I being treated like a half-caste? My mother needs to tell me what I don't know. I can't keep living like this. Why is everyone avoiding me? In a grand compound where laughter should have filled the air, silence followed Aisha's birth. The midwife smiled, but her father, Baba Ibrahim, frowned. A girl, he muttered, stepping back. A waste. Her mother, Mama Zainab, held her close, but fear clouded her eyes. She knew what this meant. Aisha would always be second to her brothers, forgotten like dust in the wind. That night, as Aisha lay in her mother's arms, the moon cast a soft glow on her tiny face. She did not yet know the world had already decided she was unwanted. Aisha watched her brothers grow into strong, confident boys. They had tutors, new clothes, and played in the courtyard while she sat quietly, stitching old fabric into small dolls. Her father never called her name. When guests came, he boasted about his sons. Aisha listened, hoping, just once, he would speak of her too. "Baba, look what I made," she said one evening, holding up a beautifully sewn cloth. Her father barely glanced. "Leave me, Aisha. Go help your mother." Her heart sank. She was invisible. Mama Zainab saw everything. Aisha's loneliness, her quiet pain, but she did nothing. "A woman must endure," she whispered one night when Aisha asked why she was treated differently. "Your time will come." But Aisha did not want to endure. She wanted to be seen, loved. Still, she kept quiet, hoping her mother's silence meant love, even if it was hidden deep within. If her family would not love her, Aisha would find love elsewhere. She spent hours in the kitchen with the servants, listening to their stories, laughing at their jokes. To them, she was not the forgotten daughter. She was Aisha, the curious girl with bright eyes. But when her father saw her sitting with them one day, his voice was sharp. "You are not a servant. Stop acting like one." Her only escape was taken away. One day, as she wandered near the village well, she met Mariam, a girl her age with wild curls and a fearless smile. "Why do you look so sad?" Mariam asked. Aisha hesitated, then whispered, "I don't belong anywhere." Mariam grinned. "Then come with me. I will show you a world where you do." For the first time, Aisha felt hope. Mariam took Aisha beyond the village, where the air smelled of roasted corn and laughter filled the night. Aisha's heart raced with excitement. No one here knew she was the forgotten daughter. Here she was free. But freedom had a cost. When she sneaked back home, a shadow stood waiting. Baba Ibrahim. His voice was ice. "Where have you been?" Aisha's adventure was over before it had even begun. The slap came before the words. Dark. Burning. Aisha gasped as tears filled her eyes. "You shame this family," her father growled. "You will not leave this house again." He locked her in her room. The walls closed in around her, trapping her like a bird in a cage. Aisha wiped her tears. She would not cry. She would not break. Days turned into weeks. Aisha sat by the window, staring at the world she could no longer touch. She thought of her brothers, of Mariam, of the laughter she had stolen for just one night. A new feeling took root inside her. Resentment. If her family would not love her, then one day they would regret forgetting her. When she was finally allowed outside, under strict orders, Aisha moved like a ghost through the market. Then she saw him. A young man with a kind smile and eyes full of mischief. "Why does a girl with such a beautiful face look so sad?" he asked. Aisha blinked. No one had ever called her beautiful before. Her heart fluttered. For the first time someone saw her. Aisha met him again the next day. And the next. He made her laugh. He listened. He saw her. "Come with me," he said one evening. "Let me show you something wonderful." She hesitated. But the pull was too strong. As she stepped into the unknown, she did not realize she had taken her first step into darkness. By day, Aisha was still the forgotten daughter, moving like a shadow through her father's house. But by night she became something else. She snuck out to meet the young man, whom she now knew as Khalid. He showed her places she never imagined. hidden corners of the village where music and laughter thrived. "Here, you are not invisible," he whispered. Aisha felt alive, but she did not know that every stolen night was changing her, pulling her deeper into a world she could not escape. At first, Khalid's attention was like the warmth of the sun, but soon shadows crept in. He introduced her to the pleasures of the forbidden, sweet drinks that made her feel light, whispered promises that made her heart race. "Trust me, Aisha," he said, placing a cup in her hand. "This will make you forget." And she wanted to forget. She drank. She laughed. She danced. She did not see the chains forming around her heart. The escape became a need. The nights grew longer, the drinks stronger. She could not stop thinking about the freedom, the thrill, the way Khalid's words made her feel wanted. But in the daylight, the truth haunted her. Her father's house felt colder, her mother's silence heavier. She was caught between two worlds, one that neglected her and one that was slowly consuming her. Mama Zainab watched her daughter's dull eyes, the way she moved like a lost soul. "Aisha, talk to me," she begged one evening. But Aisha only shook her head. Her mother's voice was weak. Her hands trembled. "You are slipping away. I fear for you." But fear could not stop what had already begun. One night Baba Ibrahim's men caught Aisha sneaking back home. The entire house woke to his fury. "Shameful girl," he roared, dragging her before the family. "You are no daughter of mine. You are a disgrace." Aisha did not beg. She did not cry. She only watched as he pointed to the door. "Leave. You are dead to us." And so she left. The streets were not kind. Hunger gnawed at her stomach. The cold bit into her skin. Then, a woman in bright robes approached her. "You look like someone in need of a new home." Aisha followed. She had nowhere else to go. The woman's home was not a home, it was a trap. Aisha soon realized she had been taken into a world of darkness, where women were used, where escape was an illusion. She fought. She cried. But the world did not care. The forgotten girl had become something worse, someone who did not exist at all. One night, Aisha looked at herself in the mirror. The girl staring back was a stranger. Painted lips, empty eyes, a hollow heart. "Who am I?" she whispered. But the mirror had no answer. News reached her that her father had more sons now. That her family had moved on as if she had never been born. They had erased her. Rage burned inside her. If they could forget her, she would make them remember. She would become something they could never erase. Aisha wiped her tears. She was no longer the girl who longed for love. She would return home, but not as a daughter. She would return as a storm. Aisha stood before the ruins of her past. Her heart hardened by betrayal. The people who had abandoned her would now feel her presence like a storm approaching. "They will remember my name," she whispered to the night. She gathered allies, outcasts, forgotten souls like her. Together, they wove a plan that would shake the very ground of the village.